Okay, so today I'm going to be part of this story. We're going to talk about my Florida Today article that has nothing to do with me, but I interjected myself. Injected myself? What would you say, Tim?
Yeah, injected's probably good.
Injected myself into the story just to share how I was feeling and how people can feel when they receive a life-threatening diagnosis. And so today, Tim Walters of Florida Today is going to help me
The Lillian
dissect my
McDermott
article. So
Show.
fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy, did I say bumpy ride? We're going to learn and grow together. So it's time to dance like the Muppets. And I hope you're all joining me because this is our dance. Tim, no one dances like you. And to that, Rob Landers will say amen.
I don't know if that's a good thing, but yeah.
Right here. Right here.
I feel like a bobblehead.
Okay, let's do that.
You can count
That's the best bobblehead ever.
right here.
Tim, you are the Swiss Army knife of bobbleheads now.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian,
Go ahead,
visit
get the coughs out.
at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who have been tuning in week after week, year after year, I am so grateful for you. But if you've stumbled on the show for the first time, then just know I'm waiting for you. I've been waiting for you all along. Just know that this show is where you can have a safe place to listen and be a friend, find a friend. And it is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal. And it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now today, as always, it's that time again where we get to dissect my story or the article that I write, my newest Florida Today article, with none other than one of my favorite editors, the creator of Daddy Duty, as well as the editor at Florida Today of my articles. And so today we get to dissect my next article that has to do with CYA. CYA, consider your alternatives, CYA. So, and let's wake up to take our health back. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am so grateful that Tim Walters is here to do just that. Welcome back, Tim, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
I always appreciate you having me, Lillian, and hello to the audience. I feel like you're my extended family nowadays.
Absolutely. I just absolutely love when you are on the air. We get to do so many different things together, and one of them is grow. But share a little bit about your background and what made you decide to be an editor and part of the news.
Oh, sure. So, I grew up here on Florida's Space Coast, went to Merritt Island High School reading the Florida Today newspaper. Sole reason I went to college as a journalism major, came back in 2002, and this month I'm celebrating 16 years at Florida Today.
Woo-hoo!
I have been the sports editor at the paper for the past 4+ years, and I've been the health editor for about 3 years now, and that's how you and I met. I started editing your column now roughly about 3 years ago, and I've been on the radio with you for almost 2.5 years. So there's my quick background in a nutshell.
Wonderful. So, you always say you never know what you're going to get when you get one of my articles. And, yesterday we recorded our television interview that's going to be airing at WEFF's TV on Sunday at 5:30? Is it still at 5:30
p.m.?
Okay.
That's correct.
And when we started talking, I didn't know what you were going to say to me because we didn't talk anything about the article until you introduced me on the television. And so I wanted to know, what did you think about my article as you were reading it?
Absolutely. So normally I really truly have no idea what I'm going to get from you. But this month I kind of had an idea only because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. However, at Florida Today and with the Florida Today Health section, we do it as Cancer Awareness Month, where we tackle all different types of cancer. So, so I had also asked, aside from doing our stories themed about cancer, cancer survivors, cancer fighters, I asked all of my columnists from all the different fields that we get to write their monthly column about cancer. So I knew that yours would have some sort of theme relating to cancer, but I just wasn't sure quite what. Now, I remember in years past, you've always kind of had your own, you know, I would say a different way of looking and thinking about cancer than a lot of other people might. And so as I was reading through your column, I think that I wasn't let down. You know, you do a great way of taking the other side of the aisle and kind of looking at the things that a lot of people might not look at or might not think about, or, you know, because people are just so used to, you go to the doctor, do what they say and move on with life. You know, you kind of say, wait, stop, think, you know, there might be other things. So, you know, and then when I started reading about, you know, the fact that, you know, you've recently had, you know, a scare with what may or may not be cancer. So, you know, it was a very interesting, very enthralling read. And, you know, it tugged at my heart. Of course, you know, cancer is personal to me as I've lost my father to cancer. So, you know, there was a whole lot going on as I read your article.
Yeah, I know, you know, and I noticed that yesterday when we met, you kept it very, the conversation was like, we're not talking about this article just yet. So I really didn't know until you, you know, introduced me what you were going to say. I didn't even know if you read my article, because when you came to the table, you didn't even have my article. And so I thought, obviously he's not read my article, because he would have, you know, said something by now. But the whole thing is, you know, I started my article by saying how much time we spend doing things that really, when you get a diagnosis, really doesn't matter. When you get a life-threatening diagnosis, really doesn't matter. And some of the things that I quoted was, you know, time on social media, you know, watching movies about zombies taking over the world, you know, playing Nintendo, although I don't know if it's called Nintendo anymore, watching reality TVs, you know, downloading, you know, the downtime is just spent doing things that perhaps maybe don't matter when you hear the words, you have cancer or you have a life-threatening disease. None of that. But we're going to continue our conversation with Tim Walters. We'll share a little bit about what we are talking about today when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Goodness gracious. I'm so glad. Brian, thank you so much for keeping me honest. I was just looking at the camera and all of a sudden I realized, yikes.
Yeah, I was wondering, I'm thinking to myself, gosh, is she going to make the cutoff?
Yeah, I did, because I saw the 1 minute, but it didn't register with me. Okay, so, you know, it was interesting. I'm sorry I didn't give you the heads up, but I wanted you to give me your true, honest opinion of the discovery of when, you know, I kind of put myself, and I went back and forth, Tim, whether or not I should put myself in the story. And the reason why I chose to put myself in the story is because how I felt hearing the words from the doctor. And we'll talk about this when we go on the air. I don't want to repeat myself. We'll just do that live. I'll announce it live.
Yeah, because I would just a short answer, and I'll answer it more on. But I think you have to put yourself into a story like this, because if not, what's the purpose of reading it? It's just opinion. But you know, once you become a part of it, so we'll talk a little bit about more about that and column writing and what makes a successful columnist. Columns,
Well, seriously, that I went back and forth, and even when I had Robert, my first editor, look at my article, and he had spent some time, you know, telling me, because, you know, of course, I told you I've been taking care of my parents, and every minute of my day was taking care, and this was the last 8 days. So I didn't have a lot of time to write my article. And even Robert said, you know, it's kind of disjointed, you know, and he kind of gave me some suggestions, and I kind of rewrote the article. But after he edited the final cut, you know, I said to him, I'm thinking about taking myself out of the article. And he goes, I just spent a lot of time editing this. Don't do this to me. And so I left it in there. but there was a bit of me that was concerned that people would react the same way that I reacted. And so, well, here we go. Hopefully we'll put you on suspense and people are open. So Tim, take over the intro and
Okay.
go from there, okay?
Okay.
I know you're taking over my show someday.
Or leave her a voicemail at
The plan is being executed.
5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
And welcome back to the Lillian Mcdermott Radio Show. I am Tim Walters, an editor at Florida Today newspaper, and it is my monthly visit to Lillian's radio show.
He's my monthly visitor.
Yeah, where we dissect her article that she sent to us. And this month we have been talking just briefly about the introduction to her column, but it has to do with cancer diagnoses, and an alternative way of looking at how to fight cancer as opposed to just, the traditional treatments that, often may or may not work. So, there's a whole lot that goes into this. And Lillian also has a very personal experience that she discusses in this month's column, because she has recently herself had a fairly scary diagnosis. So maybe we should talk a little bit about that before we further delve into the article, Lillian. What happened?
And this is the thing. I want you to know, and you, my listening and viewing friend, I want you to know that this is not a story about me. And the only reason I put myself in the story is that I wanted you to know that I was coming from a place just recently of knowing, of feeling, of experience. And so, as you know, I was rear-ended about a year, like the week I started my show in Jacksonville, or the show expanded in Jacksonville. I've been in the Brevard County from Daytona all the way to West Palm since, except for 7 years, 2011. And so, so that first week that I expanded, I got rear-ended. And so that, of course, with expanding the show, there's a lot of things more things that you have to do. You're dividing yourself between two areas. And so at the beginning, I noticed some cognitive, issues when I first started doing the show in Jacksonville. And as it just, I don't have time to stop. We don't, when you have a schedule, you don't have time to stop. And, I, kind of modified and started doing, instead of taking 2 hours for each hour on the air, it was taking me 3 hours. And one thing led to another. And between all the symptoms I was experiencing, I went to a doctor to just find out what neurologically could be happening, because I was experiencing some symptoms. And so they discovered, and I've shared this before on the show, that they, from the accident, I will not only have 4 herniated discs, which, by the way, I have not taken a pain pill, not even a Tylenol. I've used microcurrent technology. I've been using pulse electromagnetic frequency, and that's what I've been using. But there's still some things that needed to be checked. So they confirmed that I have a post-traumatic brain injury from the accident, along with the 4 herniated discs. And so, but they found something else when they did the brain MRI. They did a with and without contrast, and when they did the with and without contrast, they found an enhancement in the clivus. And so what I heard from the doctor is, our work here is done, but this is beyond what I can do. I'm sorry to tell you that you have a tumor or a mass or something growing in the clivus. And of course, the what I write in my article is, what you hear at that moment is, I'm going to die, a horrible death, blah, 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 blah. You don't hear anything else after that. And at that moment, I felt grateful, first of all, that whatever they discovered was small, and that I needed to do whatever it takes to figure out what to do, right? But if this would have been a situation where the doctor was telling me and advising my treatment at that moment, I would have done whatever that doctor would have told me, had I not known what I know today. These 7 years of doing the Lillian Mcdermott radio show and listening to the experts, first of all, I was in denial. I'm thinking, this is not real. But I had confirmation after confirmation that there is something in the brain. Now, it could be as a result of the accident. It could be something that I was born with. It could be, if it's benign, That's even, there's so many different things that could come from it. We don't know what we don't know. All I know is how I felt at that moment. And it put me in that place of, how about all the people that hear you have cancer? And now all the crystal ball predictions, you have 3 weeks to live. You have, you need 12 months of chemo. You need this like 3 months ago. All those thoughts started coming to my mind as I started writing this article, Tim, because I thought, my goodness, I need to stay positive. I need to find out the root cause. I needed to go into, MD mode, which is medical detective mode, and discover what is going on. Could this be a fluke? So it's been like 2 months, almost 2 months of knowing this. And finally, in next week, I'll go see a brain neurosurgeon and they'll advise me, but that's not going to be it for me. I will consult with other doctors that are like-minded. I will get all the information I possibly can. But Tim, how many people get whisked away to do chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery with a short period of time? Tell me.
I'm sure it's a lot, but I mean, it's such a scary diagnosis. I know with my dad, that was, it had spread to his organs. So when they tried chemo, obviously it didn't have a great effect, and he passed on pretty quickly. I guess the other side of the coin is, as I've talked about on the show before, my daughter, who's now 4, when she was 2.5,
Sure.
they discovered a tumor on her spine. But, that we didn't have a lot of time to react to. However, it wasn't something where we could look at all the information and say, if we don't take it out, it's going to go away.
But if you would have had a doctor that said, listen, she's had it there for a while. Let's take time to analyze what's this about. Would you have calmed down and said, well, maybe there's another way. Maybe there isn't another way. But when you make your decision, it's an informed choice, right?
Well, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that my choice, even though it was quick, it was informed because it had formed over 3 of the discs on the bottom of her spine.
Sure.
And as she grew, the discs would have been compressed because that tumor doesn't grow, it doesn't expand.
Yes.
So she would have, it might not have caused cancer, but it would have crushed the nerves in the bottom of her spine, and she would have been paralyzed from the waist down. So, it wasn't something where I was going to say, I need more information. With that one, it was, yes, let's do the surgery and get it out.
Absolutely. However, here we go. There's that other side. I talk about how the waiting is the worst. All these things. And if you're only getting one source of information, what if we had the opportunity of having one doctor who is all about, Western medicine, and another one that's all about functional integrative medicine? Both of them tell you these are your options. What then? And so that's what I'm saying, that we don't have that informed choice. I've said this before, we're only as smart as Google. Google it. And we're only as smart as Google, and we're only as smart or as informed as our doctor is informed. And so what I am trying to, with my article, and that information may be spot on, 100% accurate, spot on. But what if there is another choice? Then by making that informed choice, now I know that whatever, because the clivus, for those of you who are going, what the heck is a clivus? That was the first question I asked my doctor. What the heck is a clivus? And of course he gets really technical and he brings out the skull of the cadaver and starts showing me. Basically it's in the top of the spine and under the skull. There's something called the clivus. And so right now we're researching and we're looking at it. The waiting was the worst, right? But at the same time, because I'm practicing what I preach, and I'm kind of like a self-cleaning oven. I had many sleepless nights wondering, will I see my children? The thoughts of fear. That fear is the medical model. If I want to control you, and someone said this, and it was Rob Landers told me, he goes, I want to caution you, Lily, when you go to the brain neurosurgeon, he's a surgeon. They're going to advise you for surgery. And I'm like, no, you don't, because you don't have to do anything. 14 months have gone by, that whatever that is, I call it the little pinhead, is has not grown. So we have to, the longer I detach myself from the situation without being in denial or delusional, the more I feel I can make an informed choice. But that's not what happens with cancer, right? What happens with cancer is the prediction. This is what you need to do. This is the only option. But there have been person after person, doctor after doctor, thriver after survivor, come on and say, I beat cancer, or I embraced it because I wanted to learn a new truth. What was causing it? And I've had doctors come on the show and say, cancer is a symptom. It's not the problem. It's a symptom that if we have cancer, that there is something going on for the last 10 years, or maybe something that was programmed into your white blood cell many years ago, something that maybe you haven't forgiven. It's just an eye opener. And the reason why I went into how many people spend time looking at television, mindless television, or hours in social media, and all those things are valuable in many ways. It's a way to unwind, and I get it. But we don't do our own research. We rely and we give our trust to someone who has something to profit by us doing what they say. Does that make sense, Tim?
It does. I can definitely see your point of view there. I guess I would say, I don't think the doctors, when they're necessarily looking at a cancer or something or thinking profits, that I think they really do want to cure people.
Do they? Do they?
I think they do. I think I would argue for a lot of doctors out there.
I do too. But since the war on cancer has been declared back in so many years with Nixon, we're still offering chemo, radiation, and surgery. There's so much out there, Tim, that people don't even know. And that's why the Mcdermott Holistic Healing Foundation was created. We want to be a resource center. We want to help people pay for alternative functional integrative medicine. And so that's part of what I integrate into the article. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, but at the same time, I understand what you're saying there. I would also say that if there's one thing I do agree with, is that cancer is not something that just happens. It is something that's withered down over time. If you actually look at and I try not to get too technical, but if you look at the root cause, your root DNA, there's things, they're called telomeres, which are basically like little shoelace caps on top of your DNA. As they get worn down over time, and when they finally get worn down and things start to affect your DNA, that's when cell abnormalities begin and cancers can start forming. That's why smoking and things like that are so bad. You're really hammering away at your poor little telomeres in there. So anyhow, and I guess with cancer, because of cell abnormalities, different people, different types of cancers, unfortunately, there's not one cure-all. So there can be holistic things, but there also can be medical things. So again, I see where you're coming from, but I also see, where the doctors are coming from. And part of it, you're right, is that profitability. And I think that comes from maybe a higher place, but I don't think like the office visit doctor who really wants to cure you. I don't think that their intention necessarily is, oh, here's, somebody I can profit off of. But I think there are people, especially in the medical community, who are, the real business people behind it. I think that's more of the... Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, Tim, that doctors go in it to heal people. But the thing is that doctors don't heal us. We heal us. We have got to be our own medical detective. We get to learn more about ourselves and discover the root cause. And so that is one of the reasons why this article was written. And I get it. I get how people get swept into whatever needs to be done. And we're going to continue our conversation with Tim Walters when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Great conversation, Tim, because I just wish that people would just stop and say, okay, let me look at the alternative, as opposed to being right with the doctor, being right that I'm going to die in 3 weeks, or that I'm right that I'm going to only last 3 months. I believe that is a crystal ball prediction. Doctors do not. And Chris beat Cancer was just on my show a week or so, 2 weeks ago. And he said that when he told his doctor that he was going to try, because he started feeling really good once he started going raw vegan. And I'm not saying that everybody should go raw vegan, but that's what he chose to do at that time. because he had colon cancer, and he started doing other things like dealing with some of the past traumas and some of the chip on his shoulder that he had. There are so many different things. It's a mind, body, spirit approach to healing. If I just, try to focus on a symptom, I'm just dealing with a symptom, and that symptom is going to keep coming back if I don't deal with the root cause. And so he said that when he told, when he told his doctor that he did not want to do chemotherapy, his doctor became a bully. And he goes, well, if you want to die, go ahead and choose what you're choosing. What kind of support is that?
Hey, not every doctor is a good doctor. I mean,
but there is, it is an industry. It's a $147 billion industry. So, the banks and savings and loans, when the crisis, the housing crisis occurred, who did they bail out?
The car industries.
The car industry. They also helped the bank industry.
I don't remember them helping like the pharmaceutical industries though.
No, but they didn't. But they were, the reason why is they were too big to fail.
Oh well, yeah, of course.
Why would you think that insurance wouldn't do anything? That they wouldn't help the people, the smaller people. That they took care of the big people. They're too big to fail. The cancer industry could possibly be too big to fail.
Well, imagine how much money they could make though with a cancer cure, because I mean, they could charge you out the pants for the cure more than they might for the treatment of it.
They can't, because if the cure is natural, they can't patent it.
Well, what if it's a cure that they come up with? I mean,
they can't. They're trying that. They've tried that over and over again. Chemotherapy is their answer to everything.
Well, that's because they haven't found the step beyond that yet. That's what they're trying to develop,
But they don't need to. There are so many other alternative ways to heal.
But if those worked 100% of the time, then those would all be out there, though.
But nothing works 100% of the time. We've already gone through and so I really do want to talk about the reason why chemotherapy, what chemotherapy is all about. And so, hold on a second. I'm getting a text here. And the limited results of chemotherapy, but somehow we accept that. So how much time do we have? Because this is a great conversation we could have on the air.
Sure.
1 minute. Oh, okay. We'll keep talking.
Yeah. And I also wonder, what type of studies are out there where, have people, large, control groups volunteered to try and do those alternative type things instead of chemo and to see what those results are. See, I haven't seen enough studies on that.
But have you looked for them? You see, that's the thing. They're hidden. And so we have James Forsyth that comes on the show, Dr. James Forsyth, who's been doing his own trial. It's a study. It's not the double-blind placebo type of thing, but these are his patients, and he figures out what he has, what are the deficiencies of this patient. Stage 4 cancer only, stage 4 cancers. Guess what his success rate is?
What?
Stage 4 cancer sent home to die, 70% success rate. But he's not the only one. He's not the only one. It's a different way of thinking at things, and we protect this cancer, chemo, whatever, that is toxic. Toxic. So let me
okay.
Just a little bit to think about. And you can find it in. Welcome back to the Lillian Mcdermott radio show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. I am your host, Lillian Mcdermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other. Go through life with childlike wonder. Be curious instead of critical. I want to encourage you. Well, this is, you guys know how to get a hold of me at whenyounneedafriend.com. You know that I want you to check out my sponsors, support my sponsors the way that they are supporting us at whenyounneedafriend.com. Subscribe, not only there, but to also my YouTube channel. Let me tell you, passionate conversation. This is probably the most passionate conversation Tim and I have had in the 3 years that we've been meeting and talking about my article, because there's a lot of passion. We're divided, but we don't look at what are the options. CYA. Consider your alternatives. Learn a new truth about treating your body. I'm not talking about healing cancer so much so as healing your body. And once your body is healed, mind, body, spirit, then that's when the root cause can be taken away. And so I want to encourage you not only to go to whenyouneedafriend.com and click onto all my social media and follow me on all of the forms of connection with the show. But I also want to encourage you to go to the Mcdermott Holistic Healing Foundation at mcdermottholistichealingfoundation.org. I want to encourage you to go there to see what other alternative ways to heal there is. We spend a lot of time watching football. If you just watch the highlights or watch the stop during the commercials and research, go to Mcdermott Holistic Healing Foundation to see the different ways that you can heal your body, mind, body, spirit. Now, I want to talk to you, and I know that this is the month of October, and I don't like to timestamp me, but I'm going to play this over and over and over again. I don't care what month it is. But when you go to the Mcdermott Holistic Healing Foundation, there is a button that's called Donate. So many people are working so hard to do the same thing that we've been doing over and over and over. Mainly, it's to protect the cancer industry with their products, which is chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. And all of those may be appropriate, but where I have an issue is that we are not given an informed choice. We're not giving all our options. No one says to you, hey, check out the Mcdermott Holistic Healing Foundation.org, Mcdermott Holistic Healing Foundation.org. Well, it gives you all sorts of things that you can choose before trying something that will chemically kill every cell in your body and destroy your immune system. So I want people to stop, drop, and roll to something totally different. Mcdermott Holistic Healing Foundation, because most people know that alternative holistic ways to heal is not supported by the insurance industry, so this is out of pocket. Keep in mind that everybody that goes through cancer has out-of-pocket expenses. And the side effect of chemotherapy, if you are not allergic to chemotherapy, the side effects of chemotherapy can be devastating to the body. So there is a simple test, and Tim, I want to thank you for standing here and listening to me rant about this because this is so dear to my heart. I've lost way too many people because we're not given an informed choice. It's a fear tactic. It's a fear tactic that if you're going to die, if you're not going to do chemotherapy, what kind of mindset will anybody have if they walk away from the only cure and nobody can say it's even a cure? So what I want to encourage people to know is that before you were diagnosed with cancer, you probably had it 7 or 8 times in your lifetime, but your body naturally took care of it if you treated your body with love and respect. I just want people to take the time, instead of sitting for an hour or 3 looking at social media, go to mcdermottholistichealingfoundation.org. And instead of donating to the traditional, what's happened for all these years, it's a $147.3 billion industry. I am just asking that you consider to donate your time, your talent, your treasure. And when I say your treasure, I'm talking about your money. I'm talking about instead of donating money to a foundation that's going to continue looking for a cure of an industry that's a $147.3 billion industry, that you say, you know what? I want my money to help somebody make informed choice so that the Mcdermott Holistic Healing Foundation can pay for an alternative cure, not a cure, an alternative treatment to heal your body. So with that in mind, Tim, I said to you that why would anybody find a cure for the $147.3 billion industry when alternative, natural, holistic, functional medicine is much cheaper.
Well, I guess, Lillian, first, and I'd like to say this. One reason why, I try and not edit down your column very much when I put it in the paper.
Thank you. And I thank you for that.
And oh, absolutely. It is a different way of thinking, and it presents a way that you don't often see in a newspaper, on a
Yes.
TV, and that type of thing.
Yes.
And you probably will hear from people who completely disagree with you. You may hear from people that do agree with you, but I think it's something that needs to get out there, because you are presenting that alternative, that other option that you almost never hear. And that is because that alternative type of curing and healing doesn't have the voice and the power, obviously, of the medical community. So, I might get some flack for running it. Who knows?
But you know what? Just blame me, because I'm.
Oh, no. Yeah. I am the editor of the section, and I stand by what I put in there, and I stand behind you as my columnist.
Thank you.
Whether you're saying something popular or not. I'm not in this for popularity. I'm in this to, give people all of the information. And I think that this is a piece of information that we just don't often have. So I did want to say.
And that's why you're my Swiss Army knife of editors. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, and then, we were discussing, the medical industry and the cost of the cure. And then I said, well, gosh, I wonder if there was a cure, how much they would be able to charge for those type of drugs, because, would it be more profitable, for them to cure people, because cancer will never stop. It's not like you're going to cure everybody on earth and then it never comes to the next wave of people. So, is the treatment industry, more lucrative than the drug industry that might give you that treatment that's not chemo, whether it comes up with a shot or a pill or, whatever it might be. So, we were having that discussion off the air.
Yes. And, vitamin C is a heck of a whole lot cheaper than chemotherapy. And so here's the thing. And I know there are a lot of people that have done chemotherapy and have survived. And so here's what I need to say. And for anyone who's received a cancer diagnosis, and again, I have not received a cancer diagnosis. I was just told that I have something in the clivus that needs further investigation, but that it's a mass. It's a what they call a tumor. And so, of course, at that moment, I would have done just about anything, right? So I want to encourage people to go to McDermott and go to the Get Started. In there's holistic healing, different therapies, you can go through the process. Right now we are a resource center. Eventually, we want to help people pay for alternative approaches, because we think that because the insurance is going to pay for chemotherapy or radiation, that somehow there's no out-of-pocket expense. The reality is the out-of-pocket expenses going through chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery might be more expensive than trying a holistic approach. Mind, body, spirit. We want to pay for that because it's overwhelming, and that's how we are controlled. And I am done with the control. And so I am done with being trying to say the popular thing. And after years, and thank God for the show, Tim. Thank God that there have been teachers on my show that have taught me that I can heal my body, that my thoughts influence everything about my body. And the way I eat, you talked about the telomeres, the way I eat, the way I stress, all of that affects my telomeres. And so just what I want to encourage people here is to say, stop, enough. How much more trillions of dollars are we going to give to the same cures that they're offering? And by the way, 1,735,350 new cases each year. And the traditional, conventional, cancer-related, because those are the ones we're looking at, is 609,640 people will die. Now, chemo, radiation, and surgery is not a cure. They're not saying that you're going to be 100% okay. But here's the deal. If one person dies from trying alternative, holistic, whatever it is, mind, body, spirit, get this root cause done, all hell breaks loose. the group is rated, it makes the headline news. We have got to stop the madness and make informed choices. Go to McDermott HolisticHealingFoundation.org and get started with us just to learn a new truth. And we're going to continue our conversation with Tim Walters when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. Check out this truth. Don't believe me. Go to pubmed.gov as well. Okay, so the information I get from the show, Tim, I research on pubmed.gov. That is the studies, the clinical trials, all of that is in pubmed.gov. If you go on there and you look at some of the studies that they've done, they're hidden. They're hidden. You really have to look for it. Look at vitamin C. Look at all these other things that, the body is deficient. The body is needing something. Do you think, remember my last article for last year was, who is chemotherapy deficient? Nobody.
I guess what I would say to that is, you can look at vitamins and things like that, but it goes back further than that. Your body is made up of water and certain vitamins and certain things. And when you don't give it that for an extended period of time, and when you eat fast and fatty foods, when you eat, a poor diet, when you drink sodas, when you take in artificial this and that,
Yes.
if you smoke and you get all
Yes.
of those, thousands. So all of those things, that's what's caused. It's not like, we're not a race that's just born to get cancer.
Yes.
We're a race that we're a species that, cancer wasn't prevalent until the last 50 years, when all of these so-called conveniences come up. So, maybe the medical industry is pouring money into McDonald's. I don't know. Maybe they want people eating Big Macs. And
Now
Whoppers.
you're talking my language, mister.
Yeah.
So
No, I fully agree with that. And, I what I've often wondered, and I've had this discussion with a lot of people, and I was just talking about this with my wife the other night. If you're on the board of like RJ Reynolds and you're sitting around a room and you know that your product is so horrible, but you're so incredibly wealthy, how can you sleep at night knowing that you're giving millions of people cancer while you're sleeping in your mansion in your gated community, probably not smoking?
How can anyone?
How can they live with themselves?
I know, but they do, right? There's a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, and I shared the pharmaceutical drug about the Neulestra. All the different, I don't know. Hey, Brian, can you let me know if I can play a commercial on the air?
I'll text Larry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would
It's
imagine
okay.
just my knowledge of copyright is you probably can't do it without their permission.
Yeah, I would imagine you can't.
You what?
I would imagine you can't, but I'll ask.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually you need to get there, but even that, there's a commercial for Keytruda, which is a drug for people who have lung cancer from smoking, and it's got the similar list of things at the end. People who have, you could die, you could get confusion, you can,
But we
have
still
heart
take
failure.
But we still take it. How can something like that pass through approval with the FDA? How can something like that? And you have to wonder, how is smoking still available?
Yeah,
Freedom of choice. Freedom of choice.
And that's it. We do live in a free country that allows people to smoke and eat fast food and not take care of themselves. That's why I'm so against the national health care type thing, because we have people that we are basically taxing the middle class to give, insurance benefits to the lower class who can't afford it, which would be okay if there were regulations. If somebody's getting government insurance, then I think that they should be tested for not smoking and not eating and those type of things.
Yeah.
But people would I get railed for saying that.
Okay. Well, you just did.
You can text or leave her a voicemail at
You want
407
to take over?
5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
And welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show. This is Tim Walters of Florida Today, Lillian's guest. I show up once a month when Lillian writes an article for me, and this month we have been discussing her article about cancer and alternative treatments. And Lillian, I wanted to say this as well. Last segment, I talked about why I would, run an article like this that might not be the most popular thing, especially among we have a lot of big medical companies in our health section, and I support them and I support you. The other thing I would say, you were discussing earlier how you weren't sure if you were going to interject yourself in this article or if you were just going to write it. And I said that you have to put yourself in an article like this, because that personal feel is what makes people drawn into an article like this. And I would use an example of the column that I've now written for 4.5 years, my daddy duty.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to just sit there and tell people how to parent, they might get annoyed. But if I show, hey, here's this dope who's willing to write in a newspaper how he screws up and what you can learn
I
from
love your
it
article.
becomes, well, thank you. It becomes
Yeah.
a lot more personal. So I think by putting yourself in here and telling your story and telling more about yourself and where your thoughts come from is much better than just saying, hey, there are these other ways. You're saying this is happening to me and I'm getting all the information I can. So I think that's, I think that's really important.
Thank you, Tim. And I want to thank you again, because before you became my editor, I was discouraged. I was not allowed to write about the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation. And again, I want to encourage people to go to McDermottHolisticHealingFoundation.org. And I want you to register, donate, and heal. And here's the thing. They were 501c3. And so many people have bought into that this is the only treatment, which is chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. But there are other options out there. Before you are given a diagnosis, just know that cancer was in your body, disease was in your body. This was your body speaking to you that there's something wrong. You can choose a different approach. And here's one simple thing. If you decide that you want to do chemotherapy, and I will support you 100% after you've informed choice, get a test. It's a Greek test. It's like a DNA test. Dr. James Forsyth was the first one to make me aware of it. Did you know, Tim, that there is a test that they can do that will tell you if you are sensitive to chemotherapy, which I call allergic, but sensitive to chemotherapy, because if you are, there should be no chemotherapy ever given to you, because the cure or the treatment will kill you before the cancer will. And so that simple test, research it, is a Greek test that we've talked about on the show before. That will tell you, and that tells Dr. Forsyth and other doctors as well, he's not the only one that does it, what are the deficiencies in the body and what drugs he can use to help you in your body. And so if you are sensitive to chemotherapy, which there are different kinds of chemotherapy, if you're sensitive, then he goes a totally holistic approach. And he takes stage 4 cancer, sent home to die, and he has a 70% success rate. And he's been doing this for 7 years that he's done this clinic, his study in his office. And so I am just so grateful to doctors like that have stepped out of the box and said, the only reason he can do it is because there were stage 4 cancer, sent home to die. And so here's the deal. I want people to consider, to just sit and say, consider, what if there's another alternative? Go to McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation. Check out, instead of donating to the traditional, chemotherapy, radiation, research, which they've done so much research, and guess what? They have not been able to do a single cure, not a single cure. If your body is not taking not giving it what sufficiently it needs, cancer will come back. If you keep doing what you're doing to cause it, it will come back. So I want you to do something different this year. In October, please donate to McDermottHolisticHealing.org so that we can pay for the treatment of someone who really wants to try alternatives. There are people out there that can afford it. Check out the resources that we have. And if you want to ask about a certain doctor, we can maybe help with that. But, there's so many different ways that we can stop the madness. It doesn't make sense to use a drug that is meant to kill the cells, every cell in your body, the good, the bad, the ugly. First thing you need to do, which is the advice I gave myself and we've given on the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation, is to stop and breathe. Don't make any decisions and be open to learn what resonates with your body. Don't choose treatment because of fear. Choose it because of an informed choice. And if that informed choice is that I am going to do chemotherapy because I'm not sensitive to it, now I know what deficiencies I have, I'll maybe do this with a little bit of that, and then you choose what you want and bring the alignment of everybody that's with you to align with your intention of thriving and healing the body, not killing everything that is in its wake. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Tim?
And the only thing I would add on to that, Lillian, is, for those who don't have cancer, and I hope, you never get it, but obviously it really, prevention starts way before you're
Absolutely.
actually diagnosed with it. Things like lifestyle choices, things
Correct.
like stress level, as you mentioned, things like holding on to some form of, hate or, things from the past. These are all things, but it's never too late to stop quitting smoking, regardless of what age you are. It's never too soon or too late to take up a better diet, cut down on fat and, take in better foods for you, because our bodies are made up of essentially vitamins and water and things like that. And when you're
Correct.
depriving your body of those things, and when you're putting all of these other things, these chemicals into your body, it
Yes.
really makes a difference. So,
Yes.
I've practiced a healthy lifestyle for a long time. I smoked for a brief period in college and thereafter.
I
And
can't
haven't
imagine it.
no, and I haven't had a cigarette since 2001, so 17 years.
Yeah.
And but it's just you come to a point. Luckily, mine was early in life, and I said I want to live a long life. And then I had a child, and I want to be here for a long time to see her graduate high school and college. And I was barely out of college when my dad got cancer and died. So
Yeah.
I want to be around longer for my daughter than unfortunately. And his was skin cancer, so that's another thing. Put on your sunscreen in Florida. So but just all of those things, it really starts a long time, way, way, way before you get cancer. You can stop yourself in many cases, not always, because sometimes cancer is, as my dad used to say, that's the way the mop flops. Sometimes the mop
Yeah.
does not flop in your favor, but you can do a lot to prevent it. And I think people don't even think in their day-to-day lives what they're doing to their body or how it will affect them 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Yes, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I just, with McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation.org, McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation.org, what we want to do is we want to change the way people look at cancer. Cancer is a symptom. Cancer is a symptom, and your body's doing everything to encapsulate whatever is rogue. There's other things. There's Epstein-Barr. There's so many other reasons why the body starts. Cancer is a cell that went rogue. It was supposed to die, and it didn't die, and it kept multiplying and getting worse and worse and worse. And so that means that there is something going on. And if we just were to stop treating the symptom and look at the root cause, then life would be a little bit different. We would look at cancer and go, okay, I know what I need to do because I've been given informed choices. And by the way, Tim, I always remember that last question you asked me. If this is, why do children get cancer? And I just want you to know that there's a study where they studied the umbilical cord of children being born today with 287 toxins in the umbilical cord. So us as parents, we need to protect our unborn children by what we put into our bodies as well. So those are just different. And I'm not saying this out of fault or shame or fear or anything like that. I want to empower us to make the right choices, to make the choices that will heal our bodies other than, as opposed to destroy our body. And Tim, again, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to you that you have allowed me to talk about the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation, not only here with you, but on the Florida Today newspaper. So the article comes out tomorrow. I hope that people will watch it. Right now, it's at the whenyouneedafriend.com. Check it out. Tim, thank you once again for everything that you do.
Sure, and they can read it at floridatoday.com. And just briefly, I do want to send out my thoughts and prayers to all of those in the Panhandle as Hurricane Michael approaches. So just that good thoughts out to them.
Absolutely. So please consider the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation, donate, and let's heal. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Oh my God, I didn't know if we could make it through there. But yes, the people in the Panhandle, we're going to be going to Georgia this weekend. We were asked to give a presentation for the foundation. I'm hoping that the time has come where people will turn the tide. McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation.org is here for you and hopefully help you calm down, just breathe, and know that this too shall pass. And so, like the common cold, Tim, there have been some people that have died with the common cold because their body is so sick. Let's figure out how to heal, and hopefully cancer will be a thing of the past where not a lot of research needs to be done anymore. But
I got my flu shot yesterday.
yikes. You need to, okay, so I've got a documentary I want you to watch. Yikes. Okay. So there's studies about that too. There's studies about
I
that
know.
too.
I
Yeah.
know, but I get it every year and I'm just fine.
Okay.
I'm trusting our medical community.
Would you be open to learning the other side? Would you be open?
I'll be, and I mean, I've read and I know the other side, and I believe in inoculations and flu shots and things like that. That's just how I feel. So.
Okay. No, but would you be open to learn where this comes from?
Where the flu shot comes from?
How do they come up with the antidote?
Well, I mean, it changes every year, but it's basically a virus that you're putting into your body to stop another virus.
Along with what other people? So they inject the virus into an animal. And then,
yes.
Okay, so then the DNA of that animal comes into you. And there are a lot of diseases associated with rats. And there are a lot of diseases associated with other animals that are coming into your body, as well as the aluminum. And these are the things that you may have researched, but you may not be accessible to you. So I'm going to give you a documentary if you're open to it. I'd love for you to, share it. Tell me how you think, what you think about it. And let's go from there. Maybe this will be another conversation we could have another time.
Yeah, and I imagine this will be like Super Size Me, or what's the McDonald's? Is that the McDonald's documentary where they show you where the hamburgers come from? I'm not sure if I want to really know. I'm just happy eating it. I'm just happy getting my flu shot. But you can send it to me. I might watch it.
But you see, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? That is the mentality. We've been taught that this is the way that it is. But what if like all these vaccines, I mean, I can send you, if you're open to it, if you want to know the information, because if you don't want to know the information, there's nothing I can say. But informed choice is so important. I have not had a flu shot ever. And not only that, I was forced I was given a pneumonia shot by my doctor while I was reading my informed choice. I was reading it, and it was the first and only time I got so sick. Whatever was in it made me very sick. And I was reading it, and I was going to say, I'm not going to do this. When I got injected, I was upset. So,
sure.
but I didn't think anything of it, because everybody gets the flu shot, or everybody gets the vaccine. But now that I know what I know.
Will you ever get the shingle shot?
Nope.
Okay.
I won't get any. I will never
tell
get
you.
any.
Okay, that's fine. I will tell you this unequivocally. My grandfather did not get the shingle shot. He got the shingles, and then he died like 3 months later. So my grandmother gets the shingle shot now. My mother gets the shingle shot, and I will get the shingle shot because I saw what that does to a person.
Sure.
And it was it was awful.
Tim, it's not about it's about informed choice. It's not about not taking it or taking it. It's about informed choice. Once if you knew, and here's the deal. People know smoking gives cancer, but they are smoking. They made an informed choice. But they don't care. They don't care what the side effects are. And so with that in mind, there's a consequence to everything. And so would he, well, we don't have a crystal ball. All I can say is I wish that there were a way that the vaccination or the pharmaceutical industry could be held responsible for the botched and all the vaccinations that have the animal or the all the different things, the aluminum and all the things that they don't need to have. So to be continued, Tim, because there's research and that they've done on both sides, and I understand inoculations are important, but that is also an incredibly money-making. And they're coming up with so many vaccinations.
We also don't die of things that people used to die of because of those vaccinations. You don't have the plague anymore. The measles is almost gone. They can stop, chicken pox. I mean, these are things that sound simple, but they used to kill people 100 years ago. So,
Yeah. Well, again, I'm not trying to convince you one way or another. No. And I think that they're just like the Flat Earth Society. They believe very strongly that the Earth is flat. and I don't want to convince them otherwise. But I just think that informed choice, knowing what you're up against, and then if you decide to do it, then that's fine. But I will say that autism is in the rise. It is in the rise, and all these diseases are in the rise. And so we just need to choose, and choose wisely, and whatever that means. And so, yes, I agree that there aren't, but back when we were kids, not you, but when I was a kid, there were probably maybe 3 shots. Now the kids are getting like 80 to 90 shots, and that's a lot. Why are they getting so much? Why do I need to give my newborn a sexually transmitted disease type vaccine? They're not sexually active.
That's not until they're teens, though.
No,
they don't give
my
the
dear,
HPV.
the day,
no,
no, I'm not talking about HPV. I'm talking
okay.
about the Hep C or whatever that is. It's like just in case you have sex with somebody who's a hooker, or I don't know. I don't know. But
Yeah.
a 1-day-old is not going to go to a bar and pick up somebody that could give him a sexually transmitted disease. I don't know about
Obviously.
you, but at least my kids did not. But there's a lot of stuff out there that makes people feel uncomfortable. And I'm all for informed choice. That's all. That's what I want people to know. Just like, at the end of a pharmaceutical drug commercial, there are so many different, what could go wrong, and we ignore it. Ignore it. So it's just a matter of, there's so many, 100,000 people each day in the hospitals die each year, 100,000, taking medications, taken the right way, prescribed for the right reason, and it's just the side effect is death. It's not acceptable to me. But anyway, this will continue. I know. We're going to go. We're going to go. Thank you, Tim, for everything. Right. Thank you so much for putting the article.
Great discussion. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Love it. Take care. Bye.
See you, Lillian. Bye.
Bye. And thank you for watching.